Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jayden Bryce Show here on December 3rd on a fantastic Wednesday. We are going to be transitioning into week 14 of the NFL season. We've done with all those topics from week 13. We're moving on to our very next week of the NFL season. Welcome to today's show. Hope you all are having a great day. We're going to be discussing the Dallas Cowboys, my Dallas Cowboys, transitioning into their game against the Detroit Lions. And I say that I was going to transition into week 14, but obviously I've written up a show regarding some previous action from week 13. We're going to discuss a little bit about the Patriots and the Giants, something that also happened from week 13, but it pertains to week 14 as well. The Vikings got an absolutely atrocious quarterback thing going on up there in Minnesota. Absolutely abysmal. Then we're going to discuss the horrible and possible cataclysmic decline of the Indianapolis Colts over the last couple of weeks. We'll discuss that as well. And lastly, we're going to end the show about the Dallas Cowboys again. They set a brand new viewership record in the NFL, and it was absolutely fantastic, and the numbers blew everyone's socks off. It was actually more than what I predicted and more than what many also predicted in the media space. But before we get into everything, if you're listening by way of Spotify or YouTube right now at the moment, make sure you like, subscribe, follow my podcast, share it to your friends and family. Without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into today's show. The Dallas Cowboys got a very, very important game coming up tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football. Great matchup between the Lions and the Dallas Cowboys. Both teams feel like their future in the NFL season is on the line. Meaning, after week 18 or week 17, one or two. Is it week 18? Might be week 18. Are we going to continue to play football heading into the postseason? That's the biggest storyline for both of these teams going into their matchup tomorrow. But my takeaway, and obviously this is going to be from the Dallas Cowboys standpoint, is honestly the Dallas Cowboys have absolutely no, and I mean absolutely no reason to lose this game against the Detroit Lions for a multitude of reasons. Reason number one, the Lions are going to be without a lot of players, and many of them are going to be key players. Terrion Arnold earlier in the week got put on IR. We know Amon-Ra St. Brown had a really bad injury. He tweaked his ankle, high ankle sprain in the Thanksgiving game against the Green Bay Packers. He is not officially ruled out. They've listed him as limited, but I actually posted on Twitter, I'm like, this is one of the cases where teams kind of want to keep your opponent guessing. So we're not going to automatically just state that Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't going to be fully out for this game. And another reason, another caveat to that may be that it's a big game and the Cowboys coming into Detroit, you need all hands on deck. So it may be a situation where Amon-Ra, they might give him some drugs and he might just have to power through it. But ultimately, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown will be out. Sam Laporta, he's on IR. He's not going to be available. Kirby Joseph, he's not going to be available. Many offensive linemen as of today for the Detroit Lions had a lot on the injury report. So a lot of questionables on their injury report. So this really favors the Dallas Cowboys going into tomorrow night. Another reason why I think Dallas should win this game, because they should have a lot of momentum. Like a lot of external motivation. If you do not remember, the Dallas Cowboys last year got their doors absolutely blew off last year against the Detroit Lions. Because we know the previous history between these two teams. If we go back to 2023, when Dallas, the year they went to the playoffs and got absolutely bum rushed by the Packers, we know that game, that was one of the most ridiculous games of the 2023 season. It was the game where you had the whole check-in thing where the reported eligible lineman in the game where Skipper, he supposedly was reported as eligible, but Brad Allen, referee, never said he did. You had that whole fiasco. So the Lions had a lot of momentum going into last season's game, and they absolutely blew the doors off of Dallas. But now, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you're wanting to return the favor. So I believe that's another reason why the Dallas Cowboys have absolutely no reason losing this game. And of course, the Cowboys, just like the Lions, need this game to keep their playoff hopes alive. The tiebreaker with the Lions is going to be huge. And again, the loser period feels like they're going to evidently miss the playoffs. For the Lions, you're in an absolutely gauntly division there with the Bears. They are currently number 1 in the NFC North, and they are currently number 1 in the NFC as a conference. So obviously, they got a lot to make up ground for if they want to win the division. Also, you got the Green Bay Packers in your division as well. And they have a not as daunting of a schedule as the Lions have going towards the latter parts of the season. So if you are the Lions, you really need this game. For the case for the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, they evidently have to pretty much go 4-1 or win out these last 5 games of the season to either even get the wild card or win the division. I think, and we'll discuss this at a later point, maybe in Friday's show, if they win, their best case scenario might be to try and win the division, but we'll discuss that at a later date. But the Dallas Cowboys cannot take the Detroit Lions lightly. The worst thing you can do is take a team that is extremely desperate lightly. It just cannot happen in the NFL. They're just as desperate as the Cowboys, and Dan Campbell has established a culture that is predicated on grit and grind. So they know what's at stake. This team has been to an NFC Championship game that they evidently choked in. Last year, they didn't live up to expectations going into their playoffs last year, and this year, 7-5. This season has been absolutely abysmal on all fronts for the Lions. So their backs are against the wall, and they're going to look to make a statement because the last couple of games, they're coming off of an embarrassing loss to the Packers on Thanksgiving at home. In the game before that, Jameis Winston was out there absolutely dealing and giving the Lions a run for their money at home. So they're looking to make a statement on Thursday Night Football with everyone watching. And honestly, from the Lions' point of view, it's honestly ironic that the Lions, since Dan Campbell has taken over play calling, has had a lot of game management issues. We know the Detroit Lions have been very predicated on their success of going forward on 4th down. It's a type of culture and a type of way of playing football that Dan Campbell has established since he's took over as head coach. And with Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, since 2021, they have had astronomical and historical success going forward on 4th down and converting. But here's a great stat. Ever since Detroit and Dan Campbell has taken over play calling on offense for Detroit, the Lions have been 0-for-7 on 4th down conversions. They were 0-2 on 4th down conversions Thursday, Thanksgiving Day against the Packers. In comparison, the Packers were 2-0 on 4th down. So that's going to be another key component going into this game. You're going up against a Cowboys defense who relatively, even with the Quinnen Williams trade, has had troubles getting off the field on 3rd and 4th down. And evidently, we saw the Chiefs had a lot of success on 4th down on Thursday. So maybe they can get a little, start to get more of that momentum back going forward on 4th down. And the offenses overall, it's been erratic. And most of that has to do with the poor play of the offensive line. That offensive interior has not played well. And I've said it many times. It was very vocal in their week 1 loss against the Packers. And towards the middle of the season, it was like, okay, they started to play better. And for some point, now in the latter part of the season, that issue is starting to rear its head again. So the Dallas Cowboys have a very good opportunity here to wreak havoc, and I mean absolute havoc, with an interior rush against those poor guards of the Detroit Lions. The Dallas Cowboys currently ranked 7th in pressures, quarterback pressures, since the trade deadline. And most of that pressure is coming from the interior between Quinnen Williams, Osa Odighizuwa, and Kenny Clark. And ultimately, that is where the Lions are weak at the offensive line. We know they have Penei Sewell. The Lions tried bringing back their Pro Bowl center, and I think he made an All-Pro as well. Frank Frank Ragnow. He actually retired last year, and he tried to come back, but he didn't even pass his physical. So that's how desperate the Lions have been at their interior of their offensive linemen. That's where they need the most help. Obviously, the cavalry that they were calling on in Frank Ragnow is not evidently on the way to save the day. So the Dallas Cowboys have a prime opportunity to go up into Detroit tomorrow and rattle Jared Goff. Because we know when we discuss Jared Goff, we've said it 1,000 of times, if you are able to rattle Jared Goff and get him off his spot and get him uncomfortable in the pocket, you're going to have a good day against the Detroit Lions in that offense. And that offense is going to be handicapped, and they're going to try to run the ball with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and that running back tandem. That is something that the Dallas Cowboys is going to focus on, and it should be the game plan for this week for the Cowboys and Brian Schottenheimer and everyone. Make Jared Goff beat us. We know Jahmyr Gibbs is special. I mean, he's absolutely phenomenal as a football player. I don't want him to beat me. I don't want him going out there tomorrow night and running 200 yards worth of scrimmage plays on me. I don't want him to beat me. So I think that's what the Dallas Cowboys need to do. Make Jared Goff beat them. I love the Cowboys in this game. I don't 100% know the line from the top of my head. Let me look right now. I want to say the Dallas Cowboys are 3-point underdogs in this game, if I'm 100% certain. So the Dallas Cowboys are 3-point underdogs in this game. I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys to win this game. It's not being biased. I'm basing this off of the injuries that the Lions currently have. They're going to be handicapped going into this game, and I really love how the Dallas Cowboys are playing. So that is where I'm leaning towards going into that matchup tomorrow night, December 4th, Thursday Night Football. Herbie and the guys will be on the call. So something that I was thinking about when I was watching on Monday, and after I've had a couple of days to sit and really think about it and just soak it in, y'all know how much I've been in love, infatuated over the New England Patriots. That's not something I gladly want to say. Obviously, I would love if my Dallas Cowboys were like absolutely hooping right now. I wish they were just like the Patriots, like what, 11-2. Going into your bye week, number 1 seed. I'd love that for the Cowboys. So obviously, I have a team to root for, and this team led by Mike Vrabel, Drake May, that performance they put on Monday, like they were absolutely giving it to the Giants. And here was my main takeaway coming out of this game. It might be a little bit of a stretch. I'm gonna be totally honest with you, but ain't this what sports media is for? We are here just to absolutely get people's ears churning and getting them mad and as all get out to our takes. So I'm going to have a hot take, real hot take for you. When I was thinking about watching the Patriots, specifically on offense, I had this thought. I said the Patriots are shockingly good without any of their superstars, without hardly any superstars. Like they don't have that. Cowboys, they would like the Cowboys. They don't have a CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens, Javonte Williams running the ball. Like they got guys, they got people who are contributing. And I labeled this like Patriots Dynasty, this segment, and I was like, this Patriots team, the way they are built and constructed, who did they remind you of? The Super Bowl winning Patriots with Tom Brady and the company. Look, now listen. Now, before you all get worked up, click off the video, whatever. I have a point. Obviously, Tom Brady. Well, let's not even phrase it like this. Obviously, Drake May is not Tom Brady. We're not saying Stephon Diggs is Gronk. I'm just trying to make a valid comparison. And I'm not sitting here saying this Patriots team is going to go win multiple Super Bowls and become a dynasty. It's not what I'm saying. It's the idea of being able to compare the two. Because in life, and even in sports, we see where, teams kind of replicate themselves over history of time. We've seen it in multiple ways. So the idea of the Patriots having so much success, we've seen this with great franchises such as the Celtics and the Lakers in the NBA. Can't quite even Pittsburgh earlier on, and even the Cowboys. The Cowboys were They won Super Bowls in the 70s. 10 years, a good decade. Weren't all that. But then in the 90s, they just come back again and just turn it up again. This is what I'm saying about the Patriots. Obviously, you had Gronk. Drake May doesn't. Well, Brady had Gronk. Drake May doesn't have that Rob Gronkowski type player or even a Julian Edelman. But Stephon Diggs is a savvy veteran. And he's a good player. He's not quite on Gronk's level, but he's a good player. And Josh McDaniels has seemingly exponentially impacted Drake May's play in a positive way. Like, there is a drastic difference between the way Drake May is playing under Josh McDaniels and what he previously played like last year under Gerard Mayo and that whole regime. Like, drastically different. So when I say that there's a comparison to be made between the Patriots of now and the Patriots of old, I'm just saying the way the roster and the team is constructed. We would watch the Patriots when they were winning all these Super Bowls. You always said, like, this is not a gaudy roster. Like Tom Brady, we always commended Tom Brady for being able to elevate people in the offense. Those who are not like super talented, all-pro, Pro Bowl type players. Brady always had Gronk, who was the security blanket, but you always had the Wes Welkers and the Julian Edelmans. He had Randy Moss one year. They went 16-0, didn't even end up winning the Super Bowl with that type of caliber player. But as Chris Hogan, like, there's a multitude of players that Tom Brady has played with. The James White in the backfield at running back, Rex Burkhead, like all of these players that you think about who has played for the Patriots, who have not made Pro Bowlers, never been considered for a Pro Bowl outside of maybe Julian Edelman or an All-Pro. But they had these players where Tom Brady was able to elevate and have a lot of great rapport with. And they were able to be very efficient on offense, led by Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator and going to win Super Bowls. We are somewhat seeing that right now with Drake May and the New England Patriots. Like, they don't have that all-pro type presence. Stephon Diggs is not even remotely close to what he used to be off of that ACL injury. But he's out there making plays when he needs to make plays. Travion Henderson in the backfield. You think of James White, Sony Michel. Him and Ramondre Stevenson can be that combo. You got good tight ends. Obviously, I'm over here botching the guy's name. Their tight end they have. Anyways, you think of him. He's not Gronk. Jesus, I gotta think of this guy's name. I can't sit here and call him out and then say, "Oh, I forgot his name." His name is on top of my lips here. Oh Lord, I cannot stand when I botch stuff like this. Hunter Henry. Yes, Hunter Henry is not a player that you sit there and think, "Oh, he's Rob Gronkowski," but he's a good quality player. They have a pretty good offensive line, even with the injuries they withstanding at Will Campbell. Drake May wasn't really under duress that much. He was able to distribute the football. And defensively, they have quality players all around. They make plays. So when you look at this Patriots team, when I watched him, it just really reminds me of past Patriots teams. And Drake May, he is out there stepping up. He is playing absolutely phenomenal. And he's just amazing. And you cannot take that lightly because I'm a Duke guy. I despise North Carolina. So it is really hard for me to give credit to a North Carolina player. But I have to give credit where credit is due. Like that one ball that he threw to Kyle Williams. Was it Kyle Williams? Might have been Butte. On the sideline. Just an absolutely beautiful ball. I mean, just absolutely beautiful. Like Drake May throws, he just throws a phenomenal, and I mean a phenomenal deep ball. And this team's good to watch. Got a good running back tandem. Travion Henderson, he's a stud. Like, this team has players. Now, I'm not going to go on a tangent. I know I'm over here comparing them to past Super Bowl teams with the Brady era, Dynasty, and things of that nature. I'm just saying for the future, this team is set up very well. Just imagine if they can continue to hit on free agents. I don't even know where they're ranking cap space going into the offseason, but I think they rank like top 10 in cap space going into next season. They can sign a couple good free agents. Like, this team is pretty much established, and the future cannot be more bright. Yes, they are playing an absolutely terrible schedule. That has been the argument for a lot of people so far this year. I totally 100% understand that. But when you watch this team, they are well coached. And we saw there was a huge, huge difference between the coaching of a Mike Vrabel-led team than a New York Giant Mike Kafka-led team. Like, it was drastically different. Better play calling, better execution, better efficiency, better time management. Everything was absolutely firing on all cylinders for the New England Patriots. But that wasn't necessarily the case for the New York Giants. Jackson Dart, and this is where we can transition into the Giants' point of view. Jackson Dart, my lord, I tweeted it multiple times while watching this game. You know, the whole point and discussions around Jackson Dart and his injuries, people are questioning if he's going to be able to endure a career because he's out there just taking absolutely unnecessary hits. You know, he goes on concussion protocol. He misses 2 games. And, you know, a lot of people are saying, you know, Jackson Dart, you need to protect yourself in the media. And I know they've had conversations behind the scenes in the organization with him because Jackson Dart is playing good football. He's their future. Jackson Dart essentially Monday night, just says, screw all that, what you're saying. I'm going to do what I want to do. And he was absolutely getting raw. Like, he was getting absolutely murdered on Monday Night Football. That shot he took on the sideline by Ellis, my lord, he went flying out of bounds. Like, his body just flew. And Kevin Wiles brought this up on First Things First yesterday, and it was a very interesting point. Like, when you think of people who ran the ball back in the day, when you think of like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Cam Newton, all these guys, when they run the ball, you know, when people contact them, like, you know, they go down relatively, like they're able to deliver some type of punishment. Jackson Dart yesterday, he had no, and this is why I'm going to use my kinesiology degree here. He had no sort of kinetic energy built up when he made contact with Ellis. Like, no kinetic energy went towards Ellis. Ellis had all that kinetic energy going towards Jackson Dart, and he went absolutely flying. And that was the second hit. He took one, and I tweeted on when he got hit the first time, and he got hit in the head. And I'm like, and I tweeted, I'm like, yeah, you know, Jackson Dart, fresh off a concussion protocol, and I think it was like his first drop back, already getting hit in the head. Like, Jackson Dart can't protect himself. And this is a story of, overall, the Giants are just an absolute mess. They are. This organization, from top to bottom, is just absolutely horrendous. Currently, the Giants are 81, 143, and 1 since their last Super Bowl appearance. Let me recite that again. They are 81, 143, and 1. Since they last been to the Super Bowl, they have been through, 4 head coaches in that time frame. Brian Daboll, Joe Judge, Ben Schumer, and Ben McAdoo. They've been through 4 head coaches. All of them have been terrible. Now, all of them have not been set up with success. But overall, John Mara, the owner, he's been terrible. And Joe Shine, he had a press conference set up yesterday, and Ari Mariov, a guy in the media, he pretty much screenshotted this and was trying to showcase it for people on Twitter. And they were just showing the Giants were recording the press conference he was supposed to have because it's their bye week this week. And he was just going to address the fans on how bad they've been playing. And the amount of comments that were saying fire Joe Shine was absolutely brutal. On top of that, Jackson Dart does not know how to keep himself safe. So who knows if he's going to be available, because your best ability is availability. And then we got this other great story about Abdul Carter. For the second time in 3 games, Mike Kafka benches Abdul Carter. And the Giants have to be super highly disappointed because they are currently not getting the return on investment. This guy was getting compared to Micah Parsons in the draft process. They were pretty much saying this guy is a can't-miss prospect. He was the 3rd overall pick. And so far, he is not even close to what he was projected to be. And I can compare him to another edge rusher because he was our 2nd-round pick, Donovan Ezaraku. Look up the stats. Donovan Ezaraku is currently outplaying Abdul Carter. We're talking about a guy who was, pick 42 compared to pick number 3. Abdul Carter has been benched 2 times in 3 games, as I previously stated, for tardiness, missing meetings. Like, dude, can you not do the bare minimum? When you go to this league, when you come to the NFL, the bare minimum you got to do is be present. I had a conversation with this about I had to do an interview with a guy in my class, and he's a director over, and I interviewed him. He was our director over career center affairs, and he was talking about how people go to him wanting letters of recommendation, and he'd be like, no, because you never come to class. Like, do the bare minimum. Go to class. When you were brought up in school, in high school and college, our teachers always say the number one step to being successful in school, be present for class. So obviously, this can translate to the NFL. The number one rule for being a successful NFL player, be present for meetings. Don't be tardy. Like, this is stuff Abdul Carter was taught in grade school. Are you telling me he can't apply what he done in grade school to the NFL? Like, you're tardy for meetings. You're falling asleep in meetings. And they even show, I don't even know if this was on, because you know the HBO Hard Knocks came out yesterday. I don't know if that photo they took was from the HBO Max show. I'm going to go back. I want to watch it, so I'm going to see. But somebody screenshot a picture of Abdul Carter literally doing this in meetings. And I know my Spotify listeners can't see this, but this was Abdul Carter. Just absolutely knocked out mid-meeting. It's absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible what's going on with Abdul Carter. Like, dude, do the bare minimum. The number one key in life for being successful at any job, specifically in NFL, be present. Be at team meetings. Be on time. Study. It's not that hard. You're getting paid millions of dollars to just show up to a meeting. It's not that hard. This is just absolutely abysmal. This looks bad for Brian Daboll, honestly, because Mike Kafka is out here just laying the law on Abdul Carter 2 out of the 3 games he's been at the helm as the coach. And who knows, this might have been going on all year for Abdul Carter. So I don't know. The Giants, as an organization, as I stated, is absolutely abysmal. And in contrary, the New England Patriots, they look like they are back to Super Bowl form as far as the organization is being run and the process, the efficiency of the program, and the coaching staff and the players between Mike Vrabel, Drake May, Stephon Diggs, everyone involved. Like, that organization is firing on all cylinders. And the main takeaway, as I previously stated watching that game, is the drastic difference between the Patriots organization and the Giants. It was put on full display on Monday night. Now, a story that I've been passionate about. I've been passionate about this topic for a very significant amount of time now. We know I have covered J.J. McCarthy for a multitude of times on this show. And he was out with a concussion this week. So he didn't get the start. Max Brosmer got the start. And Max Brosmer was absolutely abysmal. And when I've talked about this Vikings team many times, I've said they have the roster, but their quarterback situation is terrible. And after that performance that Max Brosmer put on display on Sunday against the Seahawks, granted, you went to Seattle, top 3 defense in the NFL. Mike McDonald's the head coach, the 12th man, crowd noise. For a guy who's an undrafted free agent and Max Brosmer, kind of not your ideal first start you want as a starting quarterback in the NFL. But Kevin O'Connell and company had no choice but to throw him into the fire. I don't even know who was their backup quarterback for that game, because obviously Carson Wentz is out for the rest of the year because he tore his whole body up, courtesy of J.J. McCarthy. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy was not available for it as he had a concussion. So Max Brosmer was the only choice. Whoever they had as the backup quarterback, God bless him. So Kevin O'Connell had no choice but to throw Max Brosmer in the fire. And my takeaway was, this has to, honestly, in my lifetime, as far as I've been covering the sport, this has to be the worst quarterback situation with an elite roster I can think of in recent memory. It's bad. This is a stat that showed up on Bleacher Report, and I could not wait to talk about this. J.J. McCarthy's quarterback rating in Week 12 was 34.2. Max Brosmer's quarterback rating in Week 13 against the Seahawks was 32.8. This would be a quarterback rating if the quarterback spiked the ball every single play. That quarterback rating would be 39.6. So you're telling me the last 2 weeks, Max Brosmer and J.J. McCarthy played worse at the quarterback position than a quarterback simply spiking the ball every single play. That is absolutely mind-boggling. And that stat is absolutely outrageous. And if I am the Minnesota Vikings and I saw that stat, as an organization, I'm embarrassed. And if I'm a fan, I am absolutely ready to boycott and riot at the stadium, because this is awful. Just absolutely awful. Now, I might be a little too extreme about the fans going and rioting at the stadium. Look, I'm talking tongue in cheek. I'm metaphorically speaking in those terms. Okay? Because this has to be the worst quarterback situation I have ever seen with this elite of a roster. I made a YouTube short about it. They have talent all across the board. You have an all-world future Hall of Fame wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. You have a complimentary wide receiver 2 in Jordan Addison that a lot of teams would be killing for right now. TJ Hawkinson, he's had some big injuries the last couple years. He had an ACL tear. He's not, relived the moments he once lived 4 or 5 years ago, but he is still a quality tight end. Don't even get me started about the defense. They are absolutely phenomenal. But because of how abysmal the quarterback play is, the Vikings have found themselves with a losing record and not even close to sniffing the playoffs. If they lose again next week, this coming up week, I imagine they might be eliminated from the playoffs. Justin Jefferson, and I was watching the game. He looked absolutely checked out. He was running lousy routes. He looked like ultimately he could care less to absolutely be on that football field, catching passes from Max Brosmer on Sunday. Statistically, I don't even want to show the stats because they're so bad. But receiving wise, Justin Jefferson caught 2 passes for 4 yards on 6 targets. Jordan Addison was targeted 10 times and caught 5 for 36. Like, that stat line is just absolutely abysmal. I absolutely am hurting for Justin Jefferson. And a lot of people have been questioning if the Vikings, everyone associated, the GM, the head coach Kevin O'Connell, should be on, their jobs should be on, they should be on fire watch. I would not say that. Listen, Kevin O'Connell's job shouldn't even remotely be in jeopardy, because the front office are the ones who ultimately decided to move on and see what they had ultimately in J.J. McCarthy. You spent a 5th round pick on the guy You felt like and when you spend a 5th round pick on a guy, you got to try him out. Last year in the preseason, he made a couple big throws. He made some big plays. And all of a sudden, going into the season, obviously Sam Darnold was going to be the quarterback 1. There comes out this story that J.J. McCarthy had a meniscus tear. And he either had the option to just partially repair it and be ready to play next season or last season, or just go ahead and fully take it out or whatever and be ready to play this coming up next year, which is this year. So J.J. McCarthy decided to be ready for this year. And you got a good look at Sam Darnold. The Vikings had a lot of success. They were 14-3. They had a disappointing playoff run. But obviously, they were firing on all cylinders as an offense last year. And you got to be honest, you kind of don't blame the front office because McCarthy showed promise in those preseason games that he was playing. But the reports that Diana Rossini was making had to somewhat be true given what we've seen so far with J.J. McCarthy this year. Diana Rossini was reporting that many across the Vikings organization was believing that J.J. McCarthy was not ready. These were the reports coming out of camp from the Minnesota Vikings. They were reporting that J.J. McCarthy was not ready. And Diana Rossini gets a lot of crap in the media for the type of reporting that she does. But obviously, as time has passed, Diana Rossini's report seems to be very, very valid to me. Because when you watch J.J. McCarthy, he doesn't look ready. He looks overwhelmed, and he cannot play football, efficient, high-level quality football, for 4 quarters. J.J. McCarthy, as of right now, has not played good football. He has not played one full, complete game of good football. And define good, J.J. McCarthy's bar is not high for how good he needs to play. Honestly, a good game for J.J. McCarthy would probably be 200 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no turnovers. That is the precedent that J.J. McCarthy has set because he turns the ball over so much and he just plays horrible. Absolutely, positively horrible. So if you're the Vikings right now, you gave up on a guy in Sam Darnold who is absolutely tearing it up right now in Seattle, has Seattle in the playoff picture and a very, very good record. And you have a guy, J.J. McCarthy, who isn't currently available and is playing like absolute garbage at the quarterback position. And another thing is, he isn't available. And this is a very big indictment on J.J. McCarthy. Carson Wentz. Kevin O'Connell felt better rolling out Carson Wentz with a torn up shoulder, banged knee. Carson Wentz was essentially, he was a walking, I don't even know the term to use. He was pretty much 50%. Wasn't even close to being 100% healthy. He was a walking infirmary. That's the term I was looking to use. He was a walking infirmary. And J.J. McCarthy at the time, he wasn't put on injured reserve. He had a high ankle sprain, and they were expecting him back within 2 weeks. J.J. McCarthy, if I remember correctly, I wrote it down in the previous show, he was out like 6-7 weeks. And Kevin O'Connell and them was like, yeah, Carson Wentz gives us a better chance to win. That is an indictment against J.J. McCarthy. And J.J. McCarthy single-handedly got Carson Wentz killed. I honestly think if the Vikings had a quarterback situation like the San Francisco 49ers, this team would be well above 500. If you had a Mac Jones level backup, heck, even Jacoby Brissett, just somebody comparable, I think this team could be above 500, possibly contending for a playoff spot. That's a lot to ask, given all 4 teams in this division are really good. But, I mean, I think the Vikings honestly could be better than the Lions. They could be 7-5 where the Lions are at. But because they don't have good quarterback play, they find themselves already practically eliminated from the playoffs and have a unclear future for their organization. And they have a win now roster. And their Super Bowl window that felt like it was open for the next 3 or 4 years is possibly already closed. And that is the reason why the front office and the fans should be just absolutely disappointed about. Just gut-wrenching. The Indianapolis Colts. You know, we had the conversation about the Colts. I originally found myself becoming like emotionally tied to this team because they have a lot to cheer for. You know, have a great defense. You have Jonathan Taylor running the ball. They're playing great. And a lot of people, and me including, was comparing this team to the Saints of last year. We were like, oh, it's Daniel Jones. You know, they were comparing this team to the Saints of last year. You know, the Saints and Derek Carr started all 3-0, playing absolutely great. And then all of a sudden, nosedive right in the middle of the season. Not even in the middle. Like in week 6, week 5. Very early on. So when it pertains to the Colts, I kind of fell for it. And I was like, you know, this kind of feels like we passed the point where something bad's about to happen territory. Because we're already in week 14. And oh my God, I couldn't have possibly been more wrong. But not totally wrong. But I couldn't have possibly been more wrong. And I say not totally wrong because here's why. Chardavius Ward, great corner. He's been out for a majority of the season. Turns out Daniel Jones has a fractured fibula. Sauce Gardner, just this past game against the Texans, goes out there, almost has a non-contact injury nightmare. And it just feels like it honestly feels like the sky is falling in Indianapolis. It really does. We're talking about a team, Chris Ballard, GM, invested all this money into Sauce at the trade deadline. And a lot of people were very questionable about that decision. It was a very polarizing topic in the NFL. A lot of people were saying, no shot, I'm giving up 2 first-round picks for a cornerback. And that idea that many people were adopting seems like it's starting to reap its head here so far, going in towards the latter parts of this season. You can't totally, again, like I said, I'm not totally wrong on the Colts because they've endured a lot of injuries. But we got to wake up. It's the NFL. This happens to a multitude of teams. It's week 14. Teams are going to be banged up. Go ask the San Francisco 49ers. Their whole team is a walking infirmary. I would not be surprised this coming up week. I don't wish this on them, but it won't surprise me if Christian McCaffrey whops up with an injury and is out for 3 to 4 weeks. That's how bad the 49ers season has gone pertains to injuries. They lost Nick Bosa to an ACL. Fred Warner shredded his ankle. Michael Williams torn ACL. Like every injury possible. Brandon Ayuk as well. He hasn't even been back this year. When many thought he would be ready by mid-season. Hasn't even stepped foot on the football field. But in the last 4 weeks, they are 1-3. And if you would ask me, they could be 0-4 if it wasn't for the heroics of Jonathan Taylor. Daniel Jones has not played well. This offensive line has not played well. Daniel Jones, because of that fractured fibula, is not even mobile enough to get the job done. And that is a very positive skill set and a significant part to Daniel Jones's game is his legs. And now he's got to be a pocket passer. Not very ideal for Daniel Jones. The idea of Daniel Jones a pocket passer scares me. Because this one thing could rear its head turnovers. And we've seen that so far on display between Daniel Jones throwing interceptions and fumbling the ball and turning the ball over. I feel like the idea of this team being a Super Bowl contender is absolutely cooked, thrown out the window. Just get rid of it. If you had stock in the Indianapolis Colts as a Super Bowl team, go ahead and get rid of it. Sell it. It's not happening. This team, when you're wanting to be at this part of the season, you want to be trending towards your best football. So far, it has been the exact opposite for the Indianapolis Colts. They started out red hot, but now as the season wanes on, they continue to get worse and worse. And they got a big matchup going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday. And if they lose that game, they might be getting their curtain call on this season. It would be like if they were to fall off as much as possibly miss the playoffs, Chris Ballard is losing his job. And I don't want to talk about somebody losing their job, but man, if the Colts do not make the playoffs, there is a huge chance, and I mean huge chance, that Chris Ballard, the GM, I don't know if they'll get, I highly doubt they'll get rid of Shane Steichen. But Chris Ballard's job might be in jeopardy. Sad time in Indianapolis. You know, I wanted to like this team. I mean, Daniel Jones, just resurgent story. You know, positive headlines. It feels like everything that Peyton Manning and there was saying about Daniel Jones was being validated here in Indianapolis. It felt like he was getting a second wind. And now all these things going on with the fractured fibula, just straight downhill. Jonathan Taylor, MVP case, that seems to be absolutely canned as well, just because he hasn't been able to do nothing the last couple of weeks. Pittman, Downs, Tyler Warren. You know, Tyler Warren was getting Rookie of the Year type stuff for offense. Like, all of that is just shot down the drain in the span of the last 4 weeks. It is just absolutely depressing. As a fan of football, and I know Colts fans are just absolutely wanting to pull their hair out. Absolutely terrible stuff. So that's all I have written up for today. We're just going to go and hit on one last topic. I wanted to talk about, there's a lot of NBA stuff going on today. A lot of controversial stuff with the NBA. You know, Chris Paul got let go by the Clippers. They relieved him of his duty. Giannis is pretty much asking for a trade right now out of Milwaukee. A lot of crazy stuff going on in the NBA today. But I want to save that for a later show so I can get more research on it. And I want to end today's show off with this. We know going into the game last week between Dallas and the Chiefs, we knew last year's game on Thanksgiving was the highest viewed game in the history of the NFL. And it was the Giants and the Cowboys. So obviously, we were sitting here thinking like, Chiefs, Cowboys, Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, everyone's healthy. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, like both teams, this feels like a playoff game because of so much on the line. Their playoff hopes are on the line. And we were sitting there saying like, dude, this is going to be due for like 50 million. You know, right at 50 million. It's going to break the record. Just casually saying it. The numbers came out today. They are phenomenal. Like absolutely phenomenal. A new record. The Chiefs and the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving drew 57.2 viewers, making it the most watched regular season game in NFL history. The previous record was 42.1 million, so the record was shattered by a whopping 15 million. I think they roughly said that was 36%. Not totally shocked at this whatsoever. I called it. Now, I'm shocked that it is closer to almost $60 million, but NFL continues to be king. That is my ultimate takeaway from that news. And honestly, I haven't thought about it in this way, but now that I'm sitting here talking about it, it just reared its head into my mind. The NBA should be worried. absolutely worried for this reason. We know last year, for the first time in NFL history, I don't know if NFL history, I don't know if they've done it before, but we know the NBA has always had Christmas Day. It's always been the NBA's thing. And last year, the NFL had its first round of Christmas games. If they're making these type of numbers on Thanksgiving, the NFL is a bigger brand than the NBA. It's a better product right now than the NBA. It would not shock me. And I know LeBron talked about this last year because the NFL blew the doors off of the NBA in viewership last year, Christmas time. And granted, there's not a whole lot of great games for Christmas like there was with the Cowboys and the Chiefs. Like the odds when the schedule makers and Roger Goodell and everyone got together trying to plan out the schedule for this 2025 NFL season, you schedule Cowboys and Chiefs, but you really don't know. You don't know what both teams are going to look like towards that part of the year. Specifically, and we could think about it from this sense, the Cowboys and the Commanders play each other on Christmas Day. And I know the schedule makers were probably like, you know what, the Commander, and everybody thought this, Commanders are going to be great this year. So this is a very good matchup to have. Cowboys, Commanders, great game, division rival. And now guess what? The Commanders stink, and the Cowboys are, I was going to say mediocre at the time, but they're trending towards the right direction. You get what I'm trying to say? But, it just didn't ultimately turn out what it's going to be. And when you schedule the Chiefs and the Cowboys, who knows if Dak is going to be fully healthy? Dak has been hurt more. For the last couple of years, Dak's been hurt at some point in the season. He hasn't completed a full season in a while. So far, it looks like he's going to do that. But I know when the NFL scheduled this game, I know they were not thinking that game was going to shatter the viewership record. So going forward, you best believe the NFL is going to be scheduling some banger matchups, hopefully, for Thanksgiving games. Going forward. I had a thought, but now it's just escaped my mind. But anyways, and like I said, the NBA should be worried. Like absolutely worried, because if they're doing this on Thanksgiving, there could be a chance. We're not going to see gaudy numbers like this on Thanksgiving on Christmas for the NFL like we saw on Thanksgiving. Because some people, basketball fans who like football, were watching Thanksgiving football on Sunday. But those who love the NBA dearly are going to be having their TVs on the NBA on Christmas. But like I said a while ago, the NFL is the bigger brand, and it would not shock me again this year if the numbers between the NBA viewership and the NFL viewership on the NBA, the NFL and the NBA viewership between their games respectively on Christmas is drastically in favor of the NFL. I would not be shocked. NFL is king. Oh, here's what I want to talk about. The Cowboys continue to show why they're America's team. And, the idea that everybody said that everybody hates watching the Chiefs, that's a lie as well. And it might be too, because many people are preying on the Chiefs' downfall. So it's like one of those games like, oh, we get to watch the Chiefs get pounded on primetime, and they have a chance for their playoff hopes to be absolutely out the window. Now, I was actually going to talk to some Chiefs about their playoff chances. I still think they got a solid shot, but I just want to talk about that. Great job by the NFL. NFL continues to kill it for me. So right now, just in sports, right now in professionals, I'm not going to count college. Right now, top 3 sports: MLB, NBA, NFL, NFL 1, MLB 2, NBA 3. I think Roger Goodell's done a phenomenal job. The commissioner for Major League Baseball, I don't know his name. I'm real bad with trying to remember names. Rob Manfred, I think. Yeah, Rob Manfred. He's done an exceptional job with baseball. The NFL, the MLB postseason with the Dodgers and the Blue Jays and the multitude of games, the Mariners and the Blue Jays. Like, the playoffs for baseball was just absolutely amazing. Just great product. And we honestly have not been able to say the same about the NBA. I remember a couple years ago when the Celtics won their championship. I can't even remember who they played. Yeah, I think it was the Mavericks. I didn't even watch their games. I didn't watch the finals. And even this year when the Thunder won, I only watched it because I had to cover it. And I just didn't enjoy watching the NBA finals. And a lot of that has to do with they play too many games. But the NBA, I've not been a fan with how Adam Silver has been as far as the his role as being the commissioner of the NBA. But that's another topic for today. Another day. So NFL is king, and the Dallas Cowboys and the Chiefs did some numbers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's show, J Show number 78. We are creeping up on almost 100 shows here. We're at the 78% mark. I thank you all for your continued support. I'm enjoying doing these podcasts for y'all. And trust me, in the near future, get excited. We're going to start having some guests on, some good segments. I'm going to get back on my graphics very soon. I know I'm sick of y'all seeing a bland show with no graphics, this, and that. I got overlays at least. But I promise you all, I'm going to have graphics. We're going to have guests on. We're going to have a lot of entertainment coming. And I'm going to have a lot of content to produce for you guys. Thank you all for listening. And I will see you all on Friday to have my picks of the week and talk about some matchups and going into week 14 that I want to talk about. And of course, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the Cowboys and Lions game at the conclusion of their contest tomorrow night. Thank you all for tuning in on December 3rd on this Wednesday in 2025. I love you all. I hope you all have a good day. Peace, love, and positivity always, y'all. See you.